we were thrilled when we read your play. We thought it was so poignant and driven and current. Can you tell me a little bit about where the idea for the play came and what it was that drew you to these characters and to tell this particular story?
Yeah, so I am from Texas, and I've lived in Texas my whole life. And after I graduated from my undergrad, I got a BFA in performance from Baylor University. And after college, I started working at a children's home in Texas. And I started out as a recreation coordinator. And so that means I got to kind of like, you know, run rec events, which means like taking students to the park at a children's home that I was working at. And most of the students that lived at this children's home come from hard places, various stories that they have about their families or their own personal struggles or coming from foster care. And for me, I have always found theater and social justice to be vehicles that serve each other. And so for me, while working there and having these intimate relationships with these students and hearing their stories and about their resilient lives that they've lived, and feeling like you are 12 and you're like 30 years old from the life that you've lived.
Right.
And I think for me, I then went to Boston University for my MFA in playwriting, and I was writing a family play. And it was more so based about my family, and I was having a lot of trouble with it. And I was just frustrated with the play, and I remember I had like a deadline due the next day. And I was in writing, and I started writing dialogue between characters that later became the Tragic Ecstasy of Girlhood.
Right.
And I actually started with the scene that was just the girls together, and they were like doing each other's hair. And I ended up writing like 40 pages in that one sitting, and I was like, wow, this is actually what I want to say right now. And for me, it came right after 45 was elected and the Women's March. And these really amazing women were, you know, talking about the Me Too movement. And so there was this time where I felt like women's voices were really just being heard. And also within the theater, it seemed like there was a lot of young girl plays that were being written. So I'm, you know, thinking about The Wolves, Schoolgirls, African Mean Girls play, and Dance Nation. These really wonderful, full, like, young women on stage telling their stories. And I felt like this is the time to tell the women that I encountered at the children's home to tell their story, and that they need to be heard and their lives need to be seen and to be listened to in a real, authentic way.
Yeah, wonderful, yeah. When you listened to these stories and were with these young women in this situation, what was it that, in the midst of all of this tragedy and the hard lives that they were living, what glimmers of hope, or what did you see in these young women that gave rise to the idea that this is that these are the future women?
Yeah, I think it was just their like zeal in life, and the way that they have relationships is so passionate. And I know for myself too, coming from a hard family and having that sense of being thrown into trauma situations that really rock your childhood and make you feel like you're this like stranger on this island of like misfit toys. There's this sense that whenever you find someone that has also gone through similar situations and seen pain and really experienced something that like rips your heart out, there's this really intimate connection that you can have with the other person of, these are the things that I've gone through, and we can be connected through these moments of pain and testing. And I think also, you know, in my position as a recreation coordinator, I was able to go to dinner with these women and just sit around the table and really share a meal together. And I think the idea of chosen family, where you find people that may not be your family by blood, but they're your family of choice, because they're people that care about you and care about your future and care about where you're going in life and encourage you that you matter. And so I think for me, these women are resilient and truly like so powerful and not to be pitied. I think is so important, is that we don't look down on them, but we see them for their strength of surviving.
Yeah. Since these characters are real and women from your past, have you been able to follow along with them? Have you been able to keep track of them and learn about where they've gone and what they're doing now?
I mean, thankfully we have like Facebook in our world, so that's definitely something that, you know, making friends on Facebook with most of the students and most of the youth and following their journey and seeing where they are today. And of course, not every story is happy and hopeful, and there has been some really hard transitions, and helping students through those moments when they reach out, because I definitely don't want to impose, but those moments when they just need a friend and they just want to say like happy birthday or Merry Christmas, those moments where they feel this sense of connection to someone and feeling like they're not alone is really important. And I think also I was a theater teacher while I was at this place, and so I follow most of those theater students, and you know, they like share like memories about like when we were in shows together. And so that's always fun, and creates like a trail of comments of like, hey, how are you? What's going on? You know, and so also something that has been really special is being a part of one of the students' journeys, and how she reconnected with her mom, who was in prison while she was at our home. And so she like sent me a text that day with like a picture of her and her mom together, and that was like a really special gift for her to share with me, and to be able to celebrate that moment with her was really, really special. And you know, not everything is perfect, and not everyone has had an easy life. I think it's very hard to transition from being an 18-year-old into an adulthood. There's not as many services for actual adults that have gone through foster care systems or juvie, you know, things like that. So there still is a lot of growth that we need.
What do you find the connection between what these young women went through during the time that you were with them, but also are still going through now, and how do you think that that's a reflection of what's happening within our society? I mean, all art is a reflection of society. So what's that connection for you, or where are you seeing that intersect?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in our political world today, it's very difficult. There are a lot of big topics that are going on, and you know, like modern day slavery being like mass incarceration, and thinking about those big topics that are affecting adults, and then when we kind of zoom in to the children that are being affected, and the generation that is not only affected by it, but like experiencing it literally from the eyes of babes, and what do they say, and what do they want to say, and how do they want to change the future, and just thinking about, you know, those moments of chosen family, like how do we heal? And I'm so interested in how we can use theatrical spaces to be a trauma-informed care space, to be a moment where we actually listen to each other, especially having a diverse cast that is truly open to hear each other for their stories. That's like the America that I want to see, is more compassionate, more empathetic. And so I think that's something that we can use theater to really change the landscape and really make an impact on our world and make it better.
Yeah.